Okay, Nate. For this video, you wanted to talk about your views on direct democracy. Particularly, I think you mentioned your views on how we may be able to use the internet and online services to be able to help people be more involved.
Yeah, well, in my Australian Liberal Anarchy Party manifesto, which I wrote a couple of years ago, I tried to create a new democracy which gives citizens the power of policy creation. Because I'm interested in giving voice to people who don't have voice. You know, there might be different various groups, minority groups who aren't getting represented through policy. I want to give them the power of policy creation. So what happens in the democracy I am designing is there are two main forums. So this is an online democracy where we're engaging in democracy in the digital realm, and there are two forums. So there is the forum for debate, and in the forum for debate, people come into the online forum and they debate how they think the country should be run, right? Then there is the policy creation forum, and in the policy creation forum, individuals or groups who have come together to formulate policy can propose a policy that they have created, and then the policy will be upvoted for popularity. So individuals will come in and they will have a policy they have created, and there will be guidelines around creating a reasonable policy that makes sense, and people should suggest policies that are well structured and designed by the guidelines to make sense so they can actually be implemented. So people or individuals or groups will suggest their policy, then people will vote it up if they think it's a good idea for the community. And the idea is there will still be a state or someone at the top who makes a decision on what policies are selected. But the way I see it starting is we have the two forums. We have the debate forum, and then we have the policy creation forum. And when it all starts, when this change in political system starts, I envision that the federal government will be obligated to select at least 10 policies from the pool of policies created by the public. So this is, I want to give the power of creating policies that will be implemented to members of the public, to give them more control over how our nation is run, because my view is that the nation should be run by the people who live in the nation. The citizens of the nation should be in control of how the nation is run. So I want to give the power of policy creation to the public. Now, in this democracy, as I said, ideas will be suggested and then upvoted, and then the government will be required to select a certain amount of the policies created in the public forum. But here's the thing, this is an all-day thing. You know, what you've got to understand is you'll be engaging in the forums all day. So for this reason, voting is non-mandatory. Voting is voluntary. So that is to say, you can be going around about your day and you can grab your smartphone out and you can log into the forums in your 5 minutes on the bus, and you can look at the forums while you're on the bus for 5 minutes, and you can say, oh, this issue has come up today. Oh, voting on whether or not to build a train link between Newcastle and Sydney, and you can say, oh, I like that that idea which was suggested by Heather of Sandgate. I'm going to upvote that, and then you can zip over to another policy that you think is great. Oh, installing a public pool in Lambton, suggested by Clancy. Oh, I think that's great. Upvote. So we're going around all day and we're voting on all these different issues, and we're saying, I like that idea, and we're all doing this simultaneously in our spare time. So it's a democracy where we're all active in democracy all day, because there are so many issues to consider. There are so many potential policies that we could have to run the community. So in this system, we're all in our spare time, in our free time, we come into the forums and we browse the suggested ideas and we say, I like that, and we upvote the ideas that we think are going to be good for the community and that we support. Then the politicians at the top will have to make a decision of at least 10 of the popular policies. Now, one day I would like our whole country to be run this way without a decision maker at the top who selects the policies. And I haven't quite figured out how the system works to facilitate that. But the idea of the system I wanted to create was to remove politicians. I wanted to create a situation where there weren't politicians making decisions, there were just ideas, and the whole country was run on the ideas. So there weren't any leaders, there aren't any representatives, there are only the ideas. I wanted to remove the hierarchy. I wanted to abolish the hierarchy and whittle democracy down to the ideas that run the nation. Because at the end of the day, all a politician is a front for an ideology. Any politician is just a front for their own ideology. And you can remove the politician and the ideology still exists, or the idea still exists. So I wanted to remove the hierarchy, remove the elected representatives, and leave us with just the ideas autonomously running the country. So I came up with this idea of suggesting ideas to a forum and then voting them up for popularity. Now, I haven't quite put it together completely, but this is what I want to bring in Australia. I think we can at least bring in these two forums, these two formal forums into our democratic system as a new layer of government. The debate forum and the forum where citizens suggest policies. And as a starting point, elected representatives will be obligated to choose a certain amount of policies from the pool of policies suggested. So it's about giving power of policy creation to the public. Now, in my manifesto, I abolish state government, I implement a loosely knit Continental Congress, which is constantly voting. That is to say, in the Continental Congress, which replaces the federal government, everyone in the country is able to engage all day in national debate about how the nation should be run. And policies are suggested to the National Forum in the Continental Congress for national policies like, do we want to build a high-speed rail from Brisbane down to Victoria or whatever. And I abolish the state level and I leave local councils running their own ideas forums. So what happens in my manifesto is each local council becomes its own city-state, its own nation-state. So Newcastle and the area that encompasses Newcastle would be running the ideas forums and decisions would be being made through popular policies suggested to the forums, and that would be isolated to Newcastle, which would become an independent city-state. So Australia would look like, every council would be its own nation. So Australia would look like hundreds of individual nations. Then there would be the loosely knit Continental Congress, which is the ideas forums for national decision making, where we all come together and make national decisions about infrastructure or whatever, taxes and stuff. So again, what I was trying to do was abolish the hierarchy, abolish the elected representatives, and whittle everything down to individuals suggesting ideas and give power of policy creation to the individuals. Now, I envision this democracy working better in a world where everything is automated, because when everything is automated, people have more time to engage in democracy. That is to say, every man, Tom, Dick and Harry, who now doesn't have a job and lives on universal income because everything is automated, they can spend all day if they want engaging in the democratic forum, so people are more engaged. So I wanted to engage people in democracy more. And when everything is automated, we'll have more free time, so we'll be able to orchestrate running society this way more effectively. Now, at the moment, people don't have time to run society this way. People don't have time to be voting all day on dozens of small issues and saying what their piece is on dozens of small issues. But when everything is automated and we all have universal income, we can spend all day voting on dozens of issues and telling and expressing our views on how the country should be run. So the voting is voluntary because we can't conceivably have everyone in the nation voting on every single decision that needs to be made. So the voting is voluntary so that you can spend as much or as little time as you want engaging with this democracy. So that's the idea. So voting would be voluntary. Everything's automated in this futuristic world I talk about in my manifesto. And we can spend, those who are interested and keen can spend as much or as little time as they want engaging in the democratic forums. And you will find that society will be run by citizens who know what they're talking about, because citizens who know what they're talking about and who are interested and passionate will willingly spend more of their time engaging in the forums. So good decisions will be made because the people who are engaging in the forums will be passionate people who know about politics, and that's why they're taking the time to do it. And that's one of the arguments for voluntary voting. Now, I know the arguments against voluntary voting, but sometimes I just think, some people are so disinterested and apathetic towards politics. Sometimes I think it's better that they don't express an opinion, or that they be discouraged from engaging because they don't know what they're talking about and they don't care. And I don't think there's anything wrong with not caring about politics either. Nobody's obligated to have politics in their life. Some people just don't want politics in their life, and I respect that if you're not interested. But yeah, again, so we bring in the two different forums, the debate forum and the policy suggestion forum. Voting is voluntary, so everyone can select how much time they give to the forums, and people can come into the forums at their leisure and upvote ideas that they think are good for the community. And then in the beginning, our federal government and elected representatives will select a certain number of policies from the forums and initiate them. And in the long run, our whole society will be run off this decision-making process. So that's the idea I'm working on in my Australian Liberal Anarchy Party manifesto for a new Australian direct democracy.